Okay, good afternoon, students. Are you hearing my voice? నా వాయిస్ వినిపిస్తుందా?
వినిపిస్తుంది సార్.
Okay, right. Okay, as a part of our syllabus of social and economic history of modern India, we are in the second module, and we covered certain things within the socio-religious reform movements. We already covered Raja Ram Mohan Rai and Brahma Samaj, Dayanand Saraswati and Arya Samaj, and M.G. Ranade and Pradhana Samaj, and also Unbecent and Theosophical Society. And the remaining, the major socio-religious reform within the Islamic society with a great reformer called the Syed Ahmad Khan's Aligarh movement. Within the Muslim or Islamic Society of Indian society, apart from this Aligarh movement, many other movements you find. But the Aligarh movement is one of the initial movement and also a long run movement within the Islamic society. Ahmad Khan was a great reformer, a pioneer in the reform Islamic society, and also having a scientific temper, and also a great writer and a great humanist, and also a great supporter of the colonial rule at that time. You are well aware that the Islamic society at that time, which is a great rigidity in it, and also certain evils you find, these are shows the backwardness of the Islamic society at that time. With the scientific temper, Ahmad Khan want to eradicate certain evils and superstitions, so that he started a movement called as Aligarh. Okay, so before going to the various things about Aligarh movement, I'll give you a introduction to the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and then I'll move to the other things about the Aligarh movement. Okay, so after the 1857 revolt, the Muslims in India significantly responded to the cultural thrust of West. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the first grasped the challenge of modernization that British rule had brought to it. His intellectual legacy is abiding, though his political tactics are no longer relevant. He was born on 17th October 1817 in a prominent family of the later Mughal nobility. Okay, so he belongs to the family of the Mughals. Syed received a traditional Muslim education, which ended when he was 18 years old. Subsequently, on his own initiative, he acquired a profound knowledge of Islam. The death of his father and elder brother required him to take a modest job as Saristadar, nothing but the recorder in the Delhi's criminal court. In 1841, Ahmad Khan was appointed as Munsif, nothing but a subject, and the last Mughal king, Bahadur Shah, granted him the ancestral title called as Jawad ud Dawla and Arab Jang. Arab Jang is nothing but supporter of the state and wise strategic thinker. Between 1846 and 54, he remained in Delhi, writing nearly 6 books on traditional religious themes. In 1847, he published an archaeological survey of Delhi, a text called as Athar al Sanadi, in recognition of which the Royal Asiatic Society of Britain made him a honorary fellow in 1864. In 1855, Syed was transferred to Bijnor, where he witnessed the tragic upheavals of 1857. Okay, so in 1855, he went to the Bijnor, where the 1857 revolt also taken place in 18 uh, uh, taken place there. Okay, so Ahmad Khan loyal to the British government, for which he was rewarded with promotion to the rank of Principal Sadr Amin. However, he had emerged from the ordeal of 1857 as a Muslim nationalist as well. He completed in 1859 his Tarit Sarakshi-e-Dilla Bijnor. Is nothing but the history of insurrection in the Bijnor district. Okay, about 1857 revolt which taken place at Bijnor. Okay, and his critique of the British East India Company's misrule in India. Okay, in the book of Asbab Bhagavat Hind. Okay, the causes for the revolt of India. To calm the outraged British government, he wrote a certain books like Risala Khair Khawan Musliman, an account of loyal Muhammadans of India, that a large number of Muslims throughout the mutiny of 1857 had remained loyal to the British government. Okay, to explore areas of harmony and to foster sympathetic understanding of Christianity among the Muslims, Syed wrote Tabyan al Kalam, Tafasir al Tawarat was al Injal ala Milat al Islam. Okay, the Muhammadan commentary on the Holy Bible, which published in 1862. Okay, so in 1864, he established a scientific society. Okay, translating European scientific works into Urdu and arranging public lectures on the scientific subjects. Okay, so at Aligarh, Syed launched his British Indian Association in May 1866 to lobby the British Parliament for the rights of the Indians. Okay, so Syed took a leave of absence for his position of subject and sailed to London. He went to London in 1869, remaining in Britain until October 1870. Okay, so then Syed was enchanted by the dynamism of British society and culture, though he also began to develop a greater awareness of his own cultural identity during the trip of London. Okay, so that the process of self-realization called the Kudi. Kudi we generally call as the ego by the Indian Islam's poet and philosopher Muhammad Iqbal was evident as Syed wrote from England in 1869 as my faith in the fundamental principles of Islam was strengthened more by exposure to the conditions of Europe than by going on a pilgrimage to the Makkah. Okay, so these are certain things about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and we'll move to about his participation in the 1857 revolt and other certain things about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. But apart from these, we'll just move to All India Muhammadan Educational Conference, which started by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Okay, so it was All India Muhammadan Educational Conference was started in 1886. Sir Syed Mohammedan Educational Congress sought to channel the restless flow of Muslims' energies, okay, by the rising expectations of educated youth into a national organization. Okay, so the organization was to combine the functions of articulation and aggregation of Muslim educational, economic, and political interests while enabling Muslims to define their role in the polity of British. Okay, so finally, the Educational Congress aimed the politicization of the Muslim masses. The Sir Syed Ahmad Khan renounced his apolitical role after 1885, recognizing that establishment of All India National Congress that year heralded the dawn of a competitive political environment in British India. In 1890, he pursued the annual convention of his Educational Congress at Allahabad to adopt conference as its title instead of the Congress. Okay, so the title Congress, which is replaced with the conference. Okay, so generating a clearer struggle for the power between the National Congress and Educational Conference. And the ideological successor of the later, All India Muslim League, which was established by the conference leaders in 1906 in Dhaka. On 20th December 1887, while the Indian National Congress met in Madras, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan utilized a public session of the Educational Congress at Lucknow to oppose Muslim participation in the Indian National Congress. Okay, so on 16th March 1888, he retired more vigorously his opposition to the National Congress at a public meeting in Mir. Okay, so gradually his opposition towards the Congress gradually increased along with the Muslim League. Okay, so to neutralize the growing power of the Indian National Congress, Sir Syed organized a patriotic association in 1888. Okay, so he also started another association called as Patriotic Association in 1888, which opposed to the Indian National Congress. Okay, so Hindus as well as Muslims of land owning classes of Bengal, Bihar, Madras, Bombay, Awadh, and Northwest provinces and Punjab supported the association. Okay, so the Patriotic Association started sending memorandum to the British Parliament articulating property owners' interests, which Syed believed were in harmony with the loose with those of Muslims, adding that National Congress lacked true national representative capacity. However, action regional Islamic associations were most conspicuous in the Patriotic Association system of action, and gradually the role of Hindus virtually disappeared. Okay, so this Patriotic Association and the Indian National Congress both are having the same objective at that time. Okay, so within these two organizations, mainly started by a landowners at that time, okay, landlords at that time, and the active participants within the Patriotic Society, Patriotic Association, and Indian National Congress, both having active participants from the background of landowner society. Okay, so the Jamindar class and landowners, the big landowners are the members in these both uh, organizations at that time. Okay, no common man as a member at that time in these both. Okay, so both have the certain similarity. When you see the theory of Muslim nationalism, okay, so in the post 1857, Sir Syed was the first to articulate the theory of Muslim Indian nationalism. Okay, so because he want to start a separate concept with the patriotic society, he want to mobilize all the Muslim society in India against the Indian National Congress. Okay, so you want to um, make all Islamic society to against the Indian National Congress because he was a strong supporter of colonial power. Okay, so he showing that certain patriotic feeling within the Indian society. Okay, that is the attempt of this attempt behind the act of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Okay, so Sir Syed was the first to articulate the theory of Muslim Indian nationalism. Other leaders in the subsequent generations essentially followed him. Okay, so embellishing this concept in the light of their own time and erudition. Sir Syed, as a scion of Mughal nobility, and discussed the concept of nationalism in the terminology of 19th century Europe and enunciated the creed of Bolingbroke's, Viscount Bolingbroke's aristocratic nationalism. Okay, so Syed believed that nationalism was an instinct and that national solidarity distinguished men from animal. A mutual feeling of a solidarity with those who share many common traits is a quintessence of Sir Syed's definition of nationalism. Muslims all over the world were a nationality because of their adherence to the creed of Sideila Ila Ila. It means there is no God, whatever but Allah. Okay, so Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Okay, so he is looks like a representative of Allah. Okay, so as a representative of Allah, he want to reform the Islamic society. Okay, so Sir Syed maintained that to Islam, it was irrelevant whether a believer was a white or a black, Turkish or a Tajik, an Arab or a Chinese, or a Punjabi or a Hindustani. Okay, so Quranic dictum, Muslims all over the world were the progenitors of a spiritual father. Okay, so Syed was aware that despite their allegiance to the common creed, Muslims differed in their geographical locations and historical experiences. Consequently, he maintained that Muslims' historical encounter with India had modeled Indian Muslims into a distinct nationality. Muslim political power in India, from the advent of the Arabs in the 18th century to the heyday of Mughal power in the 17th and 18th centuries, maintained Muslim prominence in the politics, economics, and education. Okay, so in 19th century, Syed lamented the Muslim nation was decaying rapidly from its lack of social solidarity. Syed also opposed the Congress demands for the introduction of elections for the Viceroy Legislative Council and for a competitive examination for the convenient services to be held in India. Relatively backward in acquiring English education, Muslim youth were not yet prepared, okay, in the last 2 decades of the 19th century to compete with the Hindus. Okay, so in that angle, you want to Sir Syed want to mobilize the Islamic youth towards Indian British Indian civil services. Okay, so relatively backward in acquiring English education, Muslim youth were not yet prepared in the last 2 decades of the 19th century to compete with the Indian Hindus. Okay, so for a country like India, where cultural and religious heterogeneity was the rule, competitive examination Sir Syed believed would introduce elements of tension in the administration. So, on substantially similar grounds, Syed in December 1887 opposed one man, one vote principle of election to the Viceroy Council. Okay, so gradually, in initial days, he was great supporter of the colonial power, and gradually his ideology has changed, and gradually he is opposing the 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 policies of British later. Okay, so when you see the framework of his social reforms. So, what are the important things he followed as a social reform? Okay, so Muslim leadership in India, traditional as well as modern, has always been called upon to definite Islamic culture and limits of its interaction with the Hindu culture. So, Hindu culture has always been assimilative, but Islam in the Indian cultural environment faced the problem of preserving its distinct identity, which greater cultural relations with the Hindu society would erode. Okay, so striking a balance between the two processes. One is the cultural identity and the cultural synthesis. Okay, so both within these two processes has not been easy, and despite the creation of Pakistan in 1847, the problem for Indo Islams or Indian Islams Muslims has remained unsolved. Okay, so you are aware that the problems are continued up to the 1947. Okay, so for Syed Ahmad Khan, Western science and technology strengthened the Islamic convictions, since Islam was not dialectically opposed to reason. In fact, he expected modern education to be an ally of the Islam. Okay, so sustaining it with a rationalistic underpinning. However, Islam needed to be reinterpreted and updated in the order to remove irrational assertions added by the Muslim theologians. Consequently, for analysis, Syed modernistic interpretations can be divided into three broad categories. One is the Quran, the apostolic traditions, the demythologizing of Islam, and finally, emergence of modern orientation for Islam. Okay, so one is you want to mention the better things which are mentioned in the Quran, and the demythologizing of the Islam. Okay, so you want to gradually demythologize. You want to uh, show important events which are not to follow by Islam society, and by the way, you want to demytholizing the Islamic traditions, and finally, the emergence of modern orientation of the Islam. Okay, so he made the Islam on a modern grounds. So Syed was keenly aware of a need for uh, ijata, istihad, the right of interpreting Islam in modern times. On this subject, he went back to the original source of Islamic law, the Quran and Hadith, the Prophet traditions. Okay, essentially, Islamic mythology had developed through the Hadith literature and the Prophet's biographies. Okay, so the Quranic statement regarding the Prophet, the traditionalists and biographers often allowed their imaginations to the take imagination to take rational irrational flights. To the believer, these stories became a source of delight, but in the age of reason, they embraced the educated. Okay, so after his return from Europe, because he left for London in 1864. I think we already mentioned in our early paragraphs, and he was returned to India in 1870. Okay, Indian subcontinent. So after his return from Europe, Syed graduated to the Newtonian view of nature. Consequently, he adopted a rational approach towards fundamental Islamic convictions, including the role of the prophet, relevant, and the proofs of prophecy, the miracles. Okay, so the intellectual transformation earned him to the into a naturist. Okay, so in his scientific approach, Syed saw an alliance between the science and religion. Like the Victorian theologians, he argued that whatever science one chooses, it discloses the power, wisdom, and the goodness of God. Okay, so moreover, science and religion had two different sets of concern, but they were not dialectically opposed. While religion dealt with the ultimate cause, science carried out observations and experiment to search for networks of the connections. Okay, so Syed dismissed the traditionally accepted miracles of the Prophet Muhammad as a fabrication of jealous Muslims who sought to match Muhammad's miracles with those of Moses and Christ. He did accept the Darwinian theory of evolution as a scientific and rational explanation of the descent of man, but refused to accept the alleged superiority of scientific knowledge over the Quran. Okay, so he has a scientific temper and also great supporter of the Darwin theory, and also Newton laws. Okay, so but he refused to accept all as superiority over the scientific knowledge over the Quran. Okay, so he was a supporter of scientific knowledge, but he never accepted that over the Quran. Okay, he believed that Quran is the ultimate source. Okay, no thing is beyond the Quran. Okay, so he asserted that scientists uh, interrogated nature objectively in order to yield certain knowledge. This accurate scientific knowledge only served to establish the existence of God and his rational religion, Islam. Okay, so in this view, man could scarcely accept to go beyond that level of comprehension. Thus, the theory of evolution was yoked by Sarsai to the service of Islam. Okay, so these are the main things about the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan with having the Aligarh with his reforms. Okay, so no no things I had mentioned about this Aligarh movement. It is only about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and I will give you various things about Aligarh movement in our next class. Okay, so this is about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's certain reforms and his reformic ideology, which brought many changes within the Islamic Society of India. Okay, so that's about my lecture on the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan today, and I will give you things about Aligarh movement in our next class. Okay, so do you have any doubts about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's contribution towards the Islamic society? And you are welcome to ask me, and I will give you about Aligarh movement. If it possible, I will again take another class today at afternoon. If you have that patience to listen, I will take another class in the afternoon. Otherwise, I will give you about Aligarh movement in the next class, maybe on the Monday. Okay. Are you hearing? Chinnagaya and Praveen? Are you there? Yeah, okay, right. So this is about my class today. So if you have any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, I will end my class. Any doubt? Say yes or no, so that I will end my class.
No, sir.
Okay, right. Thank you. Meet you in next class. You want to another class today? I will take at afternoon after lunch. You, if you are free,
Okay, sir.
is it okay?
సార్ నా అసైన్మెంట్స్ మీ పర్సనల్ నెంబర్కి పెట్టాను సార్ నేను.
ఓకే, నో ప్రాబ్లం. అవన్నీ నేను ఆల్రెడీ గ్యాదర్ చేశాను.
ఓకే
సో
ఓకే సార్.
ఎవరెవరు పంపలేదో నేను మళ్ళీ ఒక్కసారి రిమైండ్ చేస్తా.
ఓకే సార్.
ఓకే మరి, రైట్.
ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
Thank you very much. And I am ending my class now.
ఓకే సార్.
Thank you very much.